Welcome to Quick Sleep, a quiet place where stories come alive, just as your day winds down. Take a deep breath, let go of the noise, and allow your imagination to drift into a world of gentle tales and peaceful dreams. You're listening to Quick Sleep, bedtime stories to calm your mind. In the rugged and untamed landscapes of northwestern Anatolia, where rolling hills meet the shimmering waters of the Aegean Sea, the seeds of what would become one of history's most enduring empires were sown in the early 13th century. It was here, amidst the remnants of the once mighty Byzantine Empire and the scattered territories of the Seljuk Turks, that Osman I, a minor chieftain of the Kaya tribe, began his ascent to power. Born around 158 in Sogit, a small frontier town nestled between the Byzantine and Seljuk realms, Osman inherited not only his father Ertugrul's modest territory, but also his vision of uniting the Turkish tribes under a single banner. The geopolitical landscape of the time presented both challenges and opportunities for Osman's ambitions. The Byzantine Empire, though still formidable, had been significantly weakened by centuries of internal strife, economic decline, and the devastating Fourth Crusade of 1204. The fragmentation of Byzantine authority created numerous vulnerable principalities along its eastern frontier, ripe for conquest. Meanwhile, the Seljuk Sultanate of Rum, which had ruled much of Anatolia since the 11th century, was crumbling under Mongol pressure and internal divisions, leaving a power vacuum that Osman was uniquely positioned to fill. Osman's rise to prominence stemmed from a combination of strategic brilliance, diplomatic acumen, and unwavering determination. Unlike many of his contemporaries who focused on immediate plunder and tribal rivalries, Osman demonstrated remarkable foresight in cultivating alliances with neighboring Turkic tribes, while simultaneously extending protection to local Christian communities. This pragmatic approach not only expanded his influence but also ensured a steady flow of resources and manpower essential for sustained military campaigns. His forces, initially comprising only a few hundred mounted warriors, quickly grew through these alliances and the integration of defeated enemies into his growing army. The turning point came in 1299, when Osman formally declared independence from the weakening Seljuk authority and established himself as Bey chieftain of the newly formed Ottoman Beylik. This declaration, though seemingly modest in scope, marked the beginning of a dynasty that would endure for over 6 centuries. The choice of Ottoman as the name for his domain, derived from the Arabic form of Osman's name, reflected both his Islamic heritage and his ambition to forge a new identity distinct from the declining Seljuk order. Geographically, Osman's initial territory occupied a crucial position at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, straddling important trade routes that connected the Mediterranean world with the heartlands of Central Asia. This location proved instrumental in the Beylik's early success, providing access to vital resources while facilitating communication and commerce with neighboring powers. The fertile lands of Bithynia, coupled with control over key mountain passes, enabled Osman to build a strong economic foundation while maintaining defensible borders against potential rivals. As Osman consolidated his power, He implemented administrative reforms that would become hallmarks of Ottoman governance. He established a rudimentary bureaucracy to manage taxation and land distribution, creating a system that rewarded loyalty and military service with land grants. This innovative approach attracted skilled administrators and warriors from various backgrounds, laying the groundwork for the empire's future meritocratic principles. Moreover, Osman's policy of religious tolerance helped maintain stability within his diverse realm, allowing Muslim, Christian, and Jewish communities to coexist relatively peacefully under Ottoman rule. The early years of Osman's reign witnessed a series of successful military campaigns that gradually expanded his territory at the expense of the Byzantine Empire. The capture of key fortresses such as Yenisir and Inagel not only provided strategic advantages but also served as symbols of Ottoman ascendancy. Each victory brought new resources, manpower, and legitimacy to Osman's cause, attracting more followers to his banner. By the time of his death in 1326, the Ottoman state had grown from a small frontier principality into a significant regional power, controlling much of northwestern Anatolia and threatening the Byzantine capital of Constantinople itself. Osman's legacy extended far beyond mere territorial expansion. He established traditions of leadership that emphasized personal courage, strategic thinking, and devotion to the welfare of the state. These principles, combined with a flexible approach to governance and warfare, became defining characteristics of the Ottoman dynasty. The founders' vision of creating a stable, prosperous state that could bridge different cultures and religions set the stage for the empire's future development, transforming what began as a modest frontier bellic into a civilization-spanning empire that would shape the course of world history for centuries to come. The ascension of Orhan Gazi to the throne in 1326 marked a pivotal transformation in the Ottoman Belic's trajectory, propelling it from a regional power to a formidable force capable of challenging established empires. Orhan, inheriting his father Osman's military prowess and strategic vision, immediately set about consolidating and expanding his realm. His first major achievement came with the capture of Bursa in 1326, a city that would serve as the first capital of the expanding Ottoman state. This conquest not only provided a strategic base for further operations, but also established a precedent for incorporating conquered territories into the growing Ottoman administrative system. Orhan's military innovations revolutionized the organization and tactics of Ottoman forces. He introduced the concept of standing professional armies, moving away from the traditional tribal levies that characterized earlier Turkic military formations. The establishment of the Yaya Infantry Corps, composed of professional soldiers paid regular salaries, represented a significant departure from feudal military structures. This reform allowed for year-round military operations and enhanced the Ottomans' ability to conduct prolonged campaigns. Additionally, Orhan initiated the practice of settling Turkic nomadic groups in newly acquired territories, creating a loyal military agricultural class that would become a cornerstone of Ottoman expansion. The relationship between the Ottomans and the Byzantine Empire evolved dramatically during this period. Rather than engaging in wholesale destruction, Orhan pursued a sophisticated strategy of gradual encirclement and absorption. Through a combination of military pressure, political marriages, and astute diplomacy, he systematically reduced Byzantine influence in Anatolia. The marriage alliance with the Byzantine princess Theodora Cantacuzene exemplified this approach, securing temporary peace while positioning the Ottomans as legitimate players in regional politics. However, when military action became necessary, Orhan demonstrated exceptional tactical skill, as evidenced by his decisive victory at the Battle of Pelikanen in 1329. Under Orhan's successor, Murad I, the Sexer, Murad I, the Ottoman state underwent further institutional development. Murad, who ruled from 1362 to 1389, transformed the loosely organized Belg into a centralized state apparatus capable of managing extensive territories. His most significant innovation was the creation of the Devshirme system, which recruited Christian boys from conquered territories, converted them to Islam, and trained them for military and administrative service. This merit-based system produced some of the empire's most capable leaders and administrators, most notably forming the core of the elite Janissary Corps. Murad's reign saw the Ottoman expansion cross into Europe, marking a critical phase in the empire's development. The conquest of Adrianople, Edirne, in 1362 served as a launching pad for European campaigns and eventually became the new Ottoman capital. This strategic move facilitated deeper penetration into the Balkans and established a permanent Ottoman presence in Europe. The Battle of Kosovo in 1389, though resulting in Murad's assassination, cemented Ottoman dominance in the region and demonstrated the effectiveness of their military organization against coalition forces. The administrative reforms implemented during this period laid the foundation for the empire's future bureaucratic structure. Murad established provincial governorships, sanjaks, to manage conquered territories efficiently, creating a hierarchical system that balanced central authority with local autonomy. Taxation systems were standardized, and land tenure arrangements were formalized to ensure consistent revenue collection. These administrative innovations proved crucial in integrating diverse populations and maintaining stability across the expanding realm. In terms of military technology and tactics, both Orhan and Murad embraced gunpowder weapons with enthusiasm. The introduction of artillery units and the development of specialized siege techniques gave Ottoman forces a significant advantage over their adversaries. The establishment of permanent garrisons in key locations, coupled with improved logistics and supply chains, enabled sustained military campaigns far from the empire's core territories. These military advancements were complemented by sophisticated intelligence networks and diplomatic initiatives that often neutralized potential threats before they materialized. The period between Orhan's accession and Murad's death witnessed the emergence of a distinct Ottoman identity that synthesized elements from various cultural and political traditions. While maintaining their Islamic foundations, the Ottomans incorporated Byzantine administrative practices, Persian court protocols, and Turkic military traditions into a coherent governing philosophy. This cultural synthesis manifested in architecture, law, and social organization, creating a unique imperial culture that would define the Ottoman state for centuries to come. By the end of Murad I's reign, the Ottoman state had transitioned from a frontier principality to a complex imperial entity. The institutional frameworks established during this period, including the military administrative system, bureaucratic organization, and territorial management practices, proved remarkably resilient and adaptable. These developments positioned the empire to weather future challenges and capitalize on emerging opportunities, setting the stage for even greater expansion under subsequent rulers. The 15th and 16th centuries witnessed the zenith of Ottoman power through the transformative reigns of two monumental figures, Mehmed II, known as the Conqueror, and Suleiman the Thorent, celebrated as the Magnificent. Their combined legacies forged an empire that stretched from the Danube to the Euphrates, from the Nile to the Black Sea, establishing the Ottoman state as a global superpower whose influence resonated across continents. This era marked not only geographical expansion but also unparalleled achievements in administration, culture, and military might. Mehmed II ascended the throne in 1451 with a singular vision: the conquest of Constantinople, the last bastion of the Byzantine Empire. For centuries, the city had stood as a symbol of Christian power and resistance to Islamic expansion. On May 29, 1453, after a relentless 53-day siege, Mehmed achieved what generations of Muslim rulers had failed to accomplish. The fall of Constantinople marked a watershed moment in world history, signaling the definitive end of the Byzantine Empire and the emergence of the Ottomans as masters of the Eastern Mediterranean. The conquest transformed Constantinople into Istanbul, the empire's new capital, and established it as a cosmopolitan hub of commerce, culture, and diplomacy. Mehmed's administrative genius matched his military prowess. He reorganized the empire's government into a sophisticated bureaucracy, divided into four main departments: the imperial household, the military organization, the treasury, and the judiciary. This systematic approach to governance ensured efficient administration across the vast territories. The introduction of the Tamar system, where military officers received land grants in exchange for military service, created a self-sustaining military structure while integrating local elites into the Ottoman framework. Furthermore, Mehmed's legal code, known as the Qanunnamen, provided a comprehensive set of laws that governed everything from tax collection to criminal justice, ensuring consistency in administration throughout the realm. Suleiman the Magnificent, who ruled from 1520 to 1566, elevated the empire to unprecedented heights of power and prosperity. His military campaigns expanded Ottoman territory to its greatest extent, encompassing modern-day Hungary, Iraq, and parts of North Africa. The Battle of Mohacs in 1526 resulted in the defeat of the Hungarian king and opened Central Europe to Ottoman influence. Suleiman's naval expeditions under the command of Admiral Barbarossa secured Ottoman dominance in the Mediterranean, challenging European maritime powers and establishing control over crucial shipping lanes. The architectural legacy of this era remains visible to this day. Suleiman commissioned the construction of numerous mosques, bridges, and public works that transformed the urban landscape of the empire. The Süleymaniyye Mosque in Istanbul, designed by the renowned architect Sinan, stands as a testament to the empire's artistic and engineering achievements. These grand projects were not merely aesthetic. They served practical purposes, improving infrastructure, providing employment, and demonstrating the Sultan's beneficence to his subjects. Culturally, the Ottoman Empire flourished under these rulers. The patronage of arts and sciences attracted scholars, artists, and craftsmen from across the Islamic world and beyond. The establishment of madrasas, religious schools, and hospitals created centers of learning and medical advancement. Ottoman literature, particularly poetry, reached new heights, with poets like Fuzuli producing works that remain celebrated today. The development of Ottoman miniature painting and calligraphy created distinctive artistic styles that influenced generations of artists. Diplomatic relations during this period reflected the empire's status as a global power. The capitulations agreements granted European merchants trading privileges in Ottoman territories, fostering economic ties while maintaining Ottoman sovereignty. Suleiman's correspondence with European monarchs, including Francois I of France, demonstrated the empire's role in international politics. These diplomatic engagements were complemented by sophisticated espionage networks and intelligence gathering, ensuring the sultans maintained informed positions in global affairs. The period also saw significant developments in military technology and organization. The Janissary Corps, already established as an elite fighting force, underwent further professionalization. The introduction of firearms and artillery units transformed battlefield tactics, giving Ottoman forces a decisive edge in many engagements. The development of specialized siege equipment and engineering units enabled the successful capture of numerous fortified cities across 3 continents. Socially, the empire experienced profound changes. The Devshirme system, which recruited Christian boys for conversion and service to the state, continued to produce talented administrators and military leaders. However, this theaters also saw increasing integration of local elites into the Ottoman power structure through marriage alliances and appointments to high office. The millet system, which granted religious communities autonomy under their own leaders, fostered stability and cooperation among the empire's diverse populations. Economic prosperity during this golden age rested on several foundations. Control of key trade routes connecting Europe with Asia and Africa generated substantial revenue. The establishment of standardized currency and commercial regulations encouraged domestic and international trade. Agricultural reforms and irrigation projects increased productivity, while state monopolies on certain goods ensured consistent income for the treasury. The wealth generated by these economic policies funded further military campaigns, architectural projects, and cultural initiatives. The intellectual achievements of this era were equally impressive. Ottoman scholars made significant contributions to fields such as astronomy, mathematics, and medicine. The translation and preservation of ancient texts ensured the continuation of classical knowledge, while original works expanded scientific understanding. Observatories were established, and medical facilities incorporated the latest advances in treatment and surgical techniques. However, beneath this surface of prosperity and achievement lay the seeds of future challenges. The very success of the empire created administrative complexities that would prove difficult to manage. The rapid expansion of territory strained communication and control, while the increasing wealth of the ruling elite sometimes led to corruption and favoritism. Nevertheless, the accomplishments of Mehmed II and Suleiman the Magnificent left an indelible mark on history, establishing the Ottoman Empire as one of the world's great civilizations during its golden age. The 17th century marked a dramatic shift in the Ottoman Empire's fortunes, as internal crises and external pressures converged to challenge the foundations of its power. The once unstoppable military machine that had terrorized Europe and dominated the Middle East now faced unprecedented difficulties, stemming from deep-rooted systemic issues that had been festering beneath the surface of imperial grandeur. The erosion of centralized authority, combined with mounting financial burdens, triggered a cascade of problems that would reshape the empire's trajectory. At the heart of the crisis lay the breakdown of the traditional Timar system, which had long served as the backbone of Ottoman military organization and rural administration. Originally designed to provide military service in exchange for land grants, the Timar system had gradually unraveled due to inflation, population growth, and the changing nature of warfare, as the value of these land grants diminished while military expenses soared. Many Timar holders found themselves unable to fulfill their obligations. The central government responded by increasingly relying on hired troops and mercenaries, fundamentally altering the balance of power within the empire and leading to the rise of provincial notables, Ayan, who accumulated significant local influence. The financial strain on the empire became acute as military expenditures spiraled out of control. The cost of maintaining large standing armies equipped with modern weaponry, coupled with the expensive fortification of border regions, drained the treasury. Attempts to increase revenue through higher taxes and debasement of the currency backfired spectacularly, triggering widespread inflation and economic instability. The once reliable system of tax farming, iltazam, where wealthy individuals or consortiums bid for the right to collect taxes, became increasingly corrupt and inefficient. Many tax farmers exploited their positions to extract maximum profit, further impoverishing the peasantry and disrupting agricultural production. These economic difficulties coincided with a dramatic shift in the empire's military fortunes. The legendary Janissary Corps, once the epitome of military discipline and effectiveness, had transformed into a conservative and privileged caste resistant to change. Their opposition to military reforms, particularly the adoption of European-style drill and tactics, left the Ottoman army ill-prepared for the evolving nature of warfare. The disastrous defeats at the Battle of Vienna in 1683, and the subsequent Treaty of Karlitz in 1699 forced the empire to cede significant territories in Central Europe, marking the first substantial contraction of Ottoman territory since the empire's founding. Internally, the power struggle between the central government and provincial authorities intensified. The devolution of authority to local governors and military commanders, originally intended as a temporary measure to maintain control over distant provinces, evolved into a permanent feature of Ottoman administration. In places like Egypt, Algeria, and Iraq, powerful provincial dynasties emerged, effectively operating as semi-independent states within the empire. These local rulers often resisted attempts by the central government to reassert control, leading to frequent conflicts and further draining the empire's resources. The social fabric of the empire also came under tremendous stress during this period. Urban unrest became increasingly common as economic hardships spread to the cities. Guildsmen, artisans, and merchants, facing rising costs and declining incomes, frequently took to the streets in protest. The traditional social hierarchy, which had maintained stability for centuries, began to break down as new social groups emerged and old ones lost influence. Particularly problematic was the growing tension between the ulema, religious scholars, and the secular bureaucracy, as both groups vied for influence over imperial policy. Religious tensions added another layer of complexity to the empire's internal challenges. While the millet system had successfully managed religious diversity for centuries, the increasing assertiveness of minority communities, particularly in the Balkans, created new sources of conflict. Orthodox Christian populations, inspired by Russian advances and Habsburg successes, began to question Ottoman authority more openly. At the same time, internal Islamic divisions, particularly between Sunni and Shia communities, occasionally erupted into violence, further destabilizing frontier regions. The impetus for reforms stemmed from multiple sources. In military defeats at the hands of European powers, particularly the catastrophic losses in the Russo-Turkish War of 1828-1829, exposed the urgent need for modernization. The Industrial Revolution sweeping through Europe created economic disparities that threatened Ottoman competitiveness, while the rise of nationalist movements within the empire's territories challenged its traditional multi-ethnic structure. Perhaps most significantly, the increasing influence of European powers in Ottoman affairs, exemplified by the Treaty of Küçük-Kaynarca 1774, and subsequent diplomatic interventions, demonstrated the necessity of internal strengthening to maintain sovereignty. The Tanzimat reforms began with the Hadi Sherif of Gulhane in 1839, issued by Sultan Abdülmecid Dust, which promised fundamental changes in 4 key areas: security of life, honor, and property, regular methods of assessing and collecting taxes, fair recruitment to military service, and equality before the law regardless of religion. This declaration marked the official start of the Tanzimat era and signaled the empire's commitment to modernization. Subsequent reforms, culminating in the Hadi Humayun of 1856, expanded these principles, guaranteeing complete legal equality for all Ottoman subjects and establishing the foundation for a modern legal system. One of the most significant transformations occurred in the administrative sphere. The traditional provincial system was replaced with a more centralized structure based on European models. New ministries were established to oversee various aspects of government, including foreign affairs, interior, finance, and education. The Council of State, modeled after European cabinets, became the primary advisory body to the Sultan. This reorganization aimed to eliminate corruption and inefficiency while creating a merit-based bureaucracy. The introduction of regular census-taking, modern accounting practices, and standardized procedures for tax collection represented a fundamental shift in how the empire managed its resources and population. Legal reforms constituted another cornerstone of the Tanzimat program. The Metzel, compiled between 1869 and 1876, represented the first comprehensive civil code in the Islamic world, blending Islamic legal principles with modern European concepts. Separate commercial and penal codes were also developed, establishing clear legal procedures and protections for all citizens. Courts were reorganized, and a new class of secular judges trained in modern legal principles began to replace traditional religious courts in civil matters. These changes aimed to create a predictable and fair legal environment that would encourage investment and economic development. Education underwent perhaps the most visible transformation. Traditional madrasas were supplemented with modern schools teaching European-style curricula in science, mathematics, and languages. The establishment of the Galatasaray in 1868 and the Darul Fünun University in 1846 created centers for higher learning that rivaled European institutions. Teacher training programs were instituted, and scholarships were offered to promising students to study abroad. Compulsory primary education was introduced in some regions, though implementation faced significant challenges. The emphasis on education extended to military academies, where officers were trained in modern warfare techniques and strategies. Military reforms paralleled these civilian efforts. The traditional reliance on irregular troops and the Janissary Corps was finally abandoned in favor of a modern conscript army trained according to European methods. The abolition of the Janissaries in 1826, though controversial, paved the way for the establishment of a professional military force. New arsenals and shipyards were constructed, and military schools were founded to train officers in modern tactics and technology. The introduction of standardized uniforms, ranks, and drill procedures transformed the appearance and operation of Ottoman forces. Economic reforms sought to integrate the empire into the global economy, while protecting its interests. The Land Code of 1858 established clear property rights and encouraged agricultural development. Railways and telegraph lines began to connect distant parts of the empire, facilitating trade and communication. The Ottoman Bank, established in 1856, played a crucial role in modernizing the financial sector. However, these efforts often faced resistance from local power brokers and European economic interests, complicating the empire's path to economic independence. Social reforms addressed the changing dynamics of Ottoman society. The abolition of slavery, Improvements in public health measures and the establishment of orphanages and hospitals reflected a new concern for social welfare. Women's rights, though still limited, began to receive attention, with some educational opportunities becoming available to girls. The press flourished during this period, with newspapers and journals discussing political and social issues openly, though censorship remained a concern. The Tanzimat reforms encountered significant resistance from various quarters. Conservative elements within the ulama and traditional military establishments opposed changes that threatened their privileged positions. Provincial notables feared losing their autonomy under the new centralized system. Minority communities, while benefiting from legal equality, often viewed the reforms with suspicion, fearing they might undermine their traditional protections. Economic dislocation caused by modernization efforts led to unrest among artisans and merchants displaced by new technologies and trade patterns. Despite these challenges, the Tanzimat reforms fundamentally altered the Ottoman state's character. They established the framework for a modern constitutional monarchy, culminating in the short-lived First Constitutional Era 1876. The reforms created a new class of educated bureaucrats and professionals who would play crucial roles in shaping the empire's future. They also introduced concepts of citizenship, equality before the law, and representative government that would influence political thought throughout the Middle East. European reactions to these reforms were mixed. While some Western observers praised the empire's modernization efforts, others viewed them skeptically, believing they masked deeper imperialist intentions. The reforms did help secure temporary protection from European intervention, as evidenced by the concert of Europe's recognition of Ottoman sovereignty during the Crimean War, 1853. However, they also created new dependencies on European expertise and capital, complicating the empire's quest for genuine independence. The Tanzimat era's legacy proved complex and enduring. While many of its specific reforms were later modified or abandoned, the fundamental principles of modernization and reform it introduced continue to influence Ottoman politics and society. The period demonstrated that meaningful change was possible within an Islamic framework, challenging the notion that modernity and tradition were inherently incompatible. More importantly, it established the pattern of reform and reaction that would characterize Ottoman history until the empire's dissolution, proving that even in decline, the Ottoman state retained the capacity for adaptation and renewal. The twilight years of the Ottoman Empire were marked by a desperate struggle to maintain relevance in a world that had fundamentally changed around it. The Young Turk Revolution of 1908, which forced Sultan Abdulhamid II to restore the constitution and reconvene parliament, initially sparked hope for revitalization. However, the movement's leaders soon revealed their authoritarian tendencies, centralizing power and implementing policies that exacerbated existing ethnic tensions. The decision to enter World War I on the side of Germany in 1914 proved catastrophic, stretching the empire's already strained resources to the breaking point and aligning it with a losing cause. The war effort devastated the empire's remaining territories. The Arab provinces, long simmering with discontent, rose in rebellion against Ottoman rule. The British-sponsored Arab Revolt, coupled with military defeats in Mesopotamia and Palestine, effectively ended Ottoman control in the Middle East. Simultaneously, the Armenian Genocide, beginning in 1915, not only represented one of history's darkest chapters but also irreparably damaged the empire's moral standing and internal cohesion. The forced deportations and mass killings of Armenians, Assyrians, and Greeks created humanitarian crises that would haunt the region for generations. The empire's final collapse came with the Armistice of Mudros in October 1918. Allied forces occupied Istanbul, and the Ottoman government found itself powerless to resist the dictates of the victors. The Treaty of Sèvres in 1920 proposed to dismantle what remained of the empire, partitioning its territories among European powers and creating independent states in Anatolia and the Arab world. However, the treaty never came into full effect due to the emergence of Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, who led a national resistance movement that culminated in the Turkish War of Independence. Ataturk's success in repelling Greek forces and negotiating the Treaty of Lausanne in 1923 marked the official end of the Ottoman Empire. The Republic of Turkey emerged from the ashes of the Sultanate, but it represented a fundamental break with the past. The abolition of the Caliphate in 1924 severed the final institutional link to the Ottoman legacy, while Ataturk's sweeping reforms sought to transform Turkey into a secular, modern nation-state aligned with Western values. The Ottoman Empire's historical significance extends far beyond its territorial boundaries or temporal existence. As a bridge between East and West, it facilitated crucial exchanges of knowledge, culture, and technology for over 6 centuries. During its golden age, Ottoman scholars preserved and expanded upon classical knowledge, while Ottoman artisans created architectural masterpieces that continue to inspire awe. The empire's administrative innovations, particularly in governance and law, influenced developing states across the Islamic world and beyond. Modern Turkey represents the most direct continuation of Ottoman heritage, though in a radically transformed form. Ataturk's reforms consciously sought to distance the new republic from its imperial past. Yet many aspects of Ottoman culture persist in contemporary Turkish society. The architectural legacy of Istanbul, from the Hagia Sophia to the Blue Mosque, continues to shape the city's identity. Similarly, Ottoman culinary traditions, musical forms, and literary genres remain integral to Turkish cultural expression. In the Arab world, memories of Ottoman rule are more complex. While some view the empire as a period of stability and cultural flourishing, others remember it as an era of foreign domination. The millet system's legacy can be seen in the sectarian divisions that continue to affect Middle Eastern politics, while Ottoman administrative practices influenced the development of modern Arab states. The Palestinian issue, arguably the region's most enduring conflict, finds its roots partly in decisions made during the empire's final years. The Ottoman experience offers valuable lessons for contemporary geopolitics. Its ability to govern a multi-ethnic, multi-religious empire for centuries demonstrates the possibility of peaceful coexistence among diverse communities. The empire's gradual decline illustrates the dangers of failing to adapt to changing circumstances, while its attempts at reform highlight both the potential and limitations of modernization efforts in traditional societies. The challenges faced by post-Ottoman states in maintaining stability and promoting development reflect the lasting impact of imperial legacies on modern nation-building processes. Culturally, the Ottoman Empire's influence continues to resonate globally. Ottoman art and architecture have inspired countless imitations and reinterpretations worldwide. The empire's musical traditions have evolved into various regional forms while retaining their distinctive character. In literature and cinema, the Ottoman period provides rich material for storytelling, from historical epics to intimate dramas exploring themes of power, identity, and cultural exchange. Perhaps most significantly, the Ottoman Empire's history serves as a reminder of the complexities inherent in managing diverse societies across vast territories. Its successes and failures offer insights into the challenges of balancing central authority with local autonomy, maintaining religious tolerance without compromising state unity, and pursuing modernization without losing cultural identity. These lessons remain relevant as nations continue to grapple with similar issues in our increasingly interconnected world. The empire's dissolution also underscores the importance of adapting to changing global circumstances. The failure to fully embrace industrialization, develop competitive economic structures, and maintain military parity with European powers ultimately proved fatal. Yet, the resilience demonstrated throughout centuries of challenges suggests that empires do not necessarily collapse overnight, but rather undergo prolonged periods of transformation and adaptation. In examining the Ottoman Empire's legacy, we find not just a historical curiosity, but a mirror reflecting ongoing struggles with identity, governance, and cultural preservation. From its humble beginnings as a frontier principality to its status as a world empire, and finally to its dissolution and transformation, the Ottoman story encapsulates universal themes of rise, adaptation, decline, and rebirth. Its influence continues to shape contemporary discussions about multiculturalism, statecraft, and the preservation of cultural heritage in an era of rapid globalization.